Hello to everyone who has just joined. Thank you so much for hopping on and chatting all things fractures in the funnel, getting ready for BFCM. We're just going to wait a minute or two for everyone who's registered to join before we get started. While we're waiting, we were talking about this in the presenter room before we started. How many years have you been doing BFCM for? I'm curious. Share in the chat. What is this? How many are you at? I'm at 4 right now. Zach is at 9 or 10. What are we looking at for everyone else? 6, 3, first, 4. Nice. And make sure that on your chat so that we can all see, if you can switch it to everyone, then all of the guests can see too, and our panelists. Perfect. Hello, hello, everyone who just joined. We're so excited to be chatting all things CRO this BFCM. Just giving it another minute for everyone to hop on. Lisa, you've been shopping BFCM for 20 years. I love it. We love an avid shopper. We'll be looking for some tips from you in the chat. All right. I think we have a good amount of our folks here. So let's get started. Welcome to our webinar, Fractures in the Funnel, Tactics for Optimizing Your Store Before BFCM. We have an amazing panel with us today to talk about all things CRO this holiday shopping season. I'm going to hop right into it so we can make the best use of our time. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about optimization tactics. We don't necessarily want you to start from scratch. We're thinking about where can you improve the performance in your funnel. Then we're going to talk about some very specific recommendations, and then we'll have time for a little bit of Q&A. Let's kick it off with some introductions. I'll start since I'm talking. My name is Tila. I am our manager of marketing here at Stamped. I've been at Stamped for about 4 years now, had the opportunity to work with thousands of merchants. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how reviews can be optimized leading into BFCM. I will turn it over to Stephen, who is the director of revenue at No Commerce, for a quick intro.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Steven. I've been at No Commerce for 3 years, helped a ton of brands with their customer insights. So excited to dive in today.
Awesome. Excited you're here, Stephen. I'll turn it over to you next, Zach.
Hey everyone, Zach here. I'm one of the co-founders of Reactiv. Yeah, I've been in the space for about a decade, which is wild, but Reactiv is a pretty new company. I'll get into all of that a little bit later. But yeah, over to you, Jackie.
Hi, everyone. I'm the Director of Customer Experience at Heatmap. I have been helping businesses optimize websites for a handful of years now, and excited to help you all today too.
Laura, I think you're next.
I'm next. So happy to be here. I'm Laura. I'm the Director of Content, Brand, and Community at Postscript. I've been at Postscript for 4 years, and I worked on the D2C side of e-commerce for over 6 years prior to that. So this is I've basically done so many BFCMs, I've lost track. So I'm really happy to be here today. I'll pass it over to Michael.
All right. Hey, everybody. Michael from AfterShip here. I've been in the e-com scene for about 5 years now. Less Black Fridays under my belt, but looking forward to more. A tech partnerships manager at AfterShip, and I'll pass things over to Yelena.
Thank you, Michael. I'm Yelena from Foursixty. I've been with Foursixty for 6 years now, and this is going to be my 6th BFCM. I'm the account strategist. I'm going to pass it to Maya.
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing and Partnerships at Roswell. Roswell is a full-service e-commerce agency. You name it, we do it. I have been at Roswell for 4 years, and prior to that, I was brand marketing director at several brands. So many BFCMs under my belt, both from the in-house and agency side.
Amazing. Thank you all for being here. The takeaway for all of our guests are you have multiple decades of experience here with BFCM. So take advantage of the chat, ask questions as we're going. We're all going to chat a little bit about the optimization tactics that we have, but want to make sure that we address your questions as we go through. I will also share that this webinar is being recorded. So if you do need to hop off or you want to rewatch one of our amazing speakers, we will make sure that you get access to that. So with that, let's hop in and chat all things store optimization tactics. We want to chat about different ways to fix the fractures in your funnel. So I get to start here chatting a little bit about the Stamped perspective. So Stamped is a reviews, loyalty, and lifecycle marketing tool for e-commerce brands. So we help brands think about all of the conversion points across their funnel. And I really want to chat a little bit about customer feedback today, which is seen sometimes as like a table stakes. We have to have customer reviews, right? They optimize with Google. They help me with my SEO. But at Snap, we actually really think that they're a point where you can pull on them as a lever and to build repeat revenue and long-term customer relationships. So the problem that we want to help you solve is that most brands are collecting reviews right now, but not a lot of them are activating them in channel. So you've got a lot of customers who are leaving reviews, they're sharing experiences, they're pointing out the friction points, but a lot of the times those reviews are just syndicated onto a PDP page and maybe not really used strategically. What we wanted to kind of change your mind on and convince you to see these as is that reviews are a signal. And pause for reviews could be that thing to nudge your next shopper to buy. And your negative reviews could be the ones that are an opening to win someone back. So if you don't do anything about it, it's just an opportunity lost. But really what it is someone leaving a review is actually a high engaged customer, giving you a signal that they're ready to buy again or ready to further engage with your brand. And we see this really show up in revenue numbers. So when a customer leaves a review, a positive review, 53% of those people actually come back and make a second purchase. And then customers who leave a neutral or a negative review come back at a 41% return rate. But when a customer does not leave a review, only 20% of people review. So your 5-star reviewers, your positive reviewers, they're coming back at a higher return rate than anyone else, which makes sense theoretically when you think about it. Like someone leaves a review, they probably liked the product. They're probably more likely to purchase again. But what we want to talk about is how can you take that probably and make it predictable and turn it into a revenue strategy. So that's the tactic that we wanted to share with you today is about how can you turn your feedback into a revenue engine. So I will say this doesn't need to be a massive strategy overhaul. Most people are already looking at their reviews, and one of the simplest CRO plays that you can do is to turn them into part of your purchase journey. So this is where Stamp comes in. What we often do when we start working with merchants is to look at your review rate. So that's how many products are you selling compared to how many reviews that you're getting in return. And we try and optimize that with a conversion metric. So that looks like doing things like changing the email sends, changing the timing, thinking about the personalization in those review request emails, and really nurturing that sequence until we get it to a point where it's performing really well. And then we have our benchmark where we're going to change it over time. The next piece that we always recommend, especially seasonally right now, is running a pre-BFCM review campaign. So over the next couple months, you're going to have way more shoppers than normal landing on your website, and having more fresh and relevant reviews will support the actual conversion on those pages. So sometimes we see people do like a tying in of the reviews and the loyalty points together, where maybe you'll earn double the points for the next month if you leave a review with us before BFCM. That makes sure that your site is really stacked with fresh social proof and you have lots of testimonials in place, lots of rich UGC. And then the final tactic, and this one is especially important for this BFCM season, is not to let your reviews live on the shelf. You want to make sure that you're activating them across channel. So that's doing things like in your emails, making sure that you have a product recommendations block with your reviews below that. So you can see maybe here are 3 products that folks might like, and then 3 relevant reviews for you on how to do that. We can help you set that up on the Stamp side if you're interested. And then maybe even turning them into BFCM ads. Some of the merchants that we work with are really great at turning those 5-star reviews into different text-based ads, because having enough volume of ads during that time can be a little bit hard to manage on the creative side. So Stamp makes that really simple for you. In terms of how we can do that, Stamped incorporates your reviews, your loyalty, and your lifecycle marketing all into one easy platform. And we're really thinking about how can we help you close the gap on that spike of orders that comes in, making sure that you get reviews from them, using your loyalty program to reactivate your BFCM shopper, and then using lifecycle marketing strategies to keep them engaged over time. So we would love to chat with you a little bit about how we can support you. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about the tactics we talked about today, use this QR code that you see on screen, and we'll follow up via email after the webinar. At Stamp, we have a special BFCM promo happening just for you on this webinar. And we're running a limited time offer. So you can have reviews or loyalty for $2.99 a month, or all of our products together. So that's reviews, loyalty, and lifecycle for $4.99 a month. It's just one platform, no order limits, super simple without overpaying. So that is our Stamp tactic, all about optimizing your reviews, this BFCM. And I'm going to turn it over to Stephen from No Commerce to chat a little bit about the survey side of things.
Great. Hey, thanks so much, Tila. So yeah, I'm really excited for this conversation. To piggyback off my initial introduction, I've been working with probably 4,000 brands unlocking better customer insights over the last 3 years. And one of my favorite segments is CRO. So we can go to the next slide, Tila. We'll figure this out as we go. And yeah, these are some of the brands that we've all supported as a team, that I've supported personally. And so even, take AG1, very, very hands-on right now with helping them unlock a lot of questions and a lot of insights to the things that I'm about to talk about. So going into what is a post-purchase survey. So time is short. I'm going to keep it sweet. No Commerce, for a customer insights platform. 90% of the brands that use us were surveys on their thank you page. You may be using one already. There's some providers out there that, it's a part of the tool offering, like Triple Whale. We are a great partner of theirs, not a problem. But I'll just say my focus in this conversation is how we can get you better insights ahead of BFCM. So different things like, hey, how did they discover your brand, barriers to purchase, other brands that they're potentially shopping are all different things that we can help with. And so going on to the next slide, why post-purchase surveys? Well, we don't have a ton of AI, bleed into our marketing collateral quite yet, but at the end of the day, we can help automate the way that we connect you with your customers. So very similar to reviews, we want those reviews to better understand what they like, what they dislike, what were their apprehensions, what were their tastes, what were their preferences. We can help capture this at a 50% clip after every single order. So basically 1 out of every 2 customers you can better talk to and get 6 to 8 different unique insights and pieces of feedback on your brand, on your customers, on your product, so on and so forth. And so scooting along, the biggest thing going into BFCM, so right now it's a very busy time at No Commerce. A lot of brands will wait until the last minute if they don't already have an insights program going, or if they want our help, just because we're very, very hands-on, unlike some other providers. And so at the end of the day, the biggest insights that we help unlock for a lot of these brands is, understanding, their pricing sensitivity, helping brands better understand their free shipping threshold and discount confusion. Our surveys in collaboration with some of the other partners that will go on to talk throughout this call is just another data point that's going to be super, super helpful to understand that barrier to purchase and ultimately how to fix that fracture in your funnel. And so I know on our No Commerce side, we have a few different slides here. At the end of the day, yeah, sorry, Tila, for the confusion there. But if we want to go to the next page, our marketing team added quite a bit of value. So definitely would love for you guys to check it out after the conversation. But as you can see here in 5 seconds, the number one thing that stands out is we can't just be driving discounts, right? Very expensive. I have a brand outside of No Commerce, blanket discounts. With the increased cost of tariffs and Meta being Meta, especially in the month of September, is hurting brands left and right. And so that's where a platform like No Commerce or a better insights strategy can help you better understand the values and the different things that are actually driving those customers to make a purchase. And as you can see, that's reflected in our data with that significantly higher AOV. And so going into some of these other things, I will glance over this for the respect of time. but let's take an example of how you can actually take all this blabber that I'm saying and put it to being practical. So with health and beauty, 46% of brands are trying to solve a specific problem. With no commerce, a great way to understand that is, hey, how confident are you that the skincare or that the shade that you bought is going to match your own? And if they rate it low, we can keep going down 2, 3, 4 questions to understand that even deeper. So that way we can fix any shade finders, any product quizzes, anything on the landing pages, so on and so forth, to unlock those deeper insights. And so to kind of close it out on that last page, I believe there's just one more slide. The number one question that can help you if you don't have a good starting point is what almost stopped you from purchasing. I'm personally a fan of, hey, outside of price, did anything almost prevent you from purchasing? Customers will always want a cheaper price product. And so that can kind of take out the most common objections and actually really drill to understanding if a promo code wasn't working, or if the product that they were originally interested was out, or I've even found within my own brand, I've made a website change too close to BFCM, the add to cart button isn't working. Oh, let me hurry, go and fix that. So it takes 2 minutes to get set up if you're not using a platform like No Commerce, and more than happy to have a conversation after this. So I think that's it from my side, but I know our marketing team added a lot. So as a follow-up, we'll send this out, the BFCM strategy that Brewmate did, and hopefully some of these questions can help you better understand the giftability of your brand, who they're purchasing for, how early do they start shopping, and ultimately any barriers to purchase. So thanks so much for the time.
Awesome. Thanks for presenting, Stephen. So many good nuggets in there and actionable tactics. I have a question for you from our audience that registered in advance. How should brands decide what is the most important thing that needs to be set up before the holiday rush? I know you've worked with a ton of brands recently. How do you help people prioritize?
Yeah, the number one, so 95% of brands that come to us, even if they have another provider, have only ever asked the typical question that we're all familiar with: how'd you hear about us? The number one step that I encourage to all those brands is just ask one question that's still left unresolved within the business. So for some brands, that's, hey, what interested you the most about X products or X brand? To understand, or like, what benefit are you looking for? Just something beyond attribution, because usually brands that come to us are a little bit apprehensive on trusting us with 6 to 8 questions right out of the gate. And so just taking those baby steps help you realize that customers do want to talk to you. And then usually they're very quick to go on to, oh, great, this is awesome. You collect data at every step of the way. Let me go on and actually ask those 6 to 8 questions just so that I have a ton of data, especially in a season like BFCM when orders are a lot higher than some of the other seasonality of a business.
Nice. One of my favorite use cases for merchants that use No Commerce and Stamp together is to add a question: is this a gift or is this for you? Which is so useful during holiday shopping. And then you can use that information to design your review sequences after, right? The review that you ask for a gift is very different than the review that you ask for someone who purchases for themselves.
Yep, exactly. And like, if it is for somebody else, you can understand that relationship dynamic, bleed that or like carry that over into your ad creative, and a ton of different interesting things there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this today. I'm sure the guests will be excited for your follow-up and to read through all of those different BFCM tactics. I'm going to turn it over to Zach from Reactiv now.
Yes, thank you so much. Stephen, excellent presentation. I feel like lately I've been seeing so many of these surveys, like just personally shopping around. So you guys, and I'm answering them too. So you guys must be doing something good over there. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm one of the co-founders of Reactiv. And if we just go to the second slide here, I just wanted to give a little bit of context on who we are, because we're pretty new. We've only been in the market for about a year now. We're based in Toronto, which is why you see the CN Tower and a couple of our team Slack photos there. And the majority of us used to work at Shopify. I think combined we have over 60 years working there, and then the rest came from like the brand side or just other companies across commerce. So while we're new, we're a team that's lived this firsthand, and we're trying to solve the problem, which on this next slide is exactly what we're trying to do. So this is at the heart of what we do. This is like condensed into one single image. And we built Reactiv because we feel that the way brands acquire and retain customers is just broken. We know, all of you in here and every other brand out there they're spending so heavily on ads. And once you finally win that click, that traffic gets funneled to like a generic web landing page, something that's like slow or leaky with like single digit conversions. And even if you're able to get them to buy, you lose them right after that checkout. There's no real way to re-engage with them unless you can capture like email or SMS and something like that. Whereas on the other side, apps like mobile apps, downloadable, shoppable mobile apps have always attempted to solve retention. I think I can speak for most people here. Like we prefer in-app UX, but nobody actually likes downloading an app, right? Like nobody wants to download every single app for every single brand that you shop with. And that's just like a deal breaker in many cases. So we kind of like took that and created what we call reactive clips, which essentially allows shoppers to click on an ad or a link in an email or a link in an SMS message and be brought directly into a mobile app without downloading it. From there, the post-click journey is personalized to you. And at this point, conversion is already higher, right? You're personalizing it, you're showing people what they want to see. But we've all been there. We click on something and no matter how personalized it is, we just get busy, right? Like we hop on a call with our boss or we're speaking to a customer or a merchant. We just get busy. That's how life works. And then the funnel kind of ends there usually. But with Reactiv, we're able to send you a push notification regardless of if we know who you are. Like we don't need to know your email. We don't need to know your phone number. We can send you a push notification right to your phone, bring you back into that funnel. And then, hopefully have you complete that transaction. From there, we can funnel you into like a full downloaded mobile app. And if we go on to the next slide, you can actually try this out because I feel like most of the time when I explain this, it doesn't really resonate until you try it. So if you have an iOS device or if you have an iPhone, scan this QR code and you'll essentially, this will simulate what it would be like if you clicked on an ad for Cozy Earth. You'll be brought right into their landing page. I think it's for their bamboo bedding collection, which as an aside is an excellent product. And you can do what you would normally do. You can browse, you can shop, you can add to cart, you can check out. But if you don't, you're automatically going to receive a push notification later in the day. And like you'll see, like you're in an app, this is not a browser experience. That push notification will bring you right back into that funnel. But if we go to the next slide, let's zoom in to BFCM this year. I think there's something that's pretty similar every year across, and it's a gold rush for attention. I think if you put on like your consumer hat, Lisa, I feel like you'll be very familiar with this, as you mentioned, you've been doing this for 20 years, but we're bombarded with offers and there's all these like rules that are kind of tightening for us right now with iOS 26. SMS and email is getting a little bit harder to get through. And then meanwhile, brands are asking us to jump through like so many hoops, right? Like subscribe to this, download this, sign up for like a membership program or subscribe to this product. There's friction just everywhere. And personalization at this point is also table stakes. So we all expect it, but you shouldn't have to have your consumers work for it either. So on the next slide, this is how we're kind of thinking about, that slide. This is kind of how we're thinking about optimizing BFCM with Reactiv this year. And it just comes down to like a few simple points, like frictionless personalization is just making experiences more relevant without asking customers to do more. We know who you are from the ad that you click on. That experience should be reflective of that. And then that post-click journey, you should be able to turn an ad, open you right up into this clip. We can include personal content and then funnel you into that purchase. And then from there, if you don't purchase, we can retarget you with push notifications that are super contextual and light touch. And we're also not limited by the same like quiet time restraints as SMS would be. So you can definitely take advantage of that and cut through the noise a little bit. And then finally, like the retention flywheel is all about just like you have that conversion, funnel them naturally into your full mobile app, and then you can just keep them forever. So I'll wrap it up here. Thank you for your time. And if you want to chat more about like BFCM or mobile or anything at all, scan this QR code. It's going to open up another Reactiv clip, but this one has me as the product and the CTA is book a meeting. So chat with me and stay connected. But thanks so much.
How cool. I am so excited about this product and I love Cozy Earth. So great example. Two questions came up in the chat for you. One, is this available for iOS only, Zach?
Yes, at the moment it is. We build using Apple's app clip technology. Android has something similar. Like candidly, we just haven't invested in it because 80% of the traffic is iOS. And then with conversions, it's over 90%. So we're just kind of, like I mentioned, we're a new company. We're just starting where the money is, literally. But yeah, this is an iOS only experience at the moment.
Cool. I know that the outside of quiet hours is interesting. We work with another company that had been running timing experiences or experiments for their campaigns, and they actually found that like late night shoppers were more likely to make a second purchase than during the day. So if you can experiment with those hours, it can be really powerful. I'm curious about how you send push notifications to users' phones without opt-in. So can you talk to me a little bit about the compliance side of things?
Yeah, totally. Million dollar question. This is all baked into Apple's terms and services. So if you scan this QR code or the last one with Cozy Earth, you'll notice you get this little like app clip card, and there is a clause under the open button that's an opt-out clause, not an opt-in. So by default, Apple has you opted in to a notification window of 8 hours for push notifications. You can ask for more, but then when you ask, like it prompts that, usual iOS screen you've all seen. We A/B tested with that. The 8 hours is actually the best period anyways, because you're at your highest intent. Like you click on an ad during your workday, we hit you with a notification when you're doom scrolling at like 9 p.m. that night. And that's where we see like the highest conversion. So yeah, totally compliant.
Amazing. And final question, do you recommend a minimum amount of products or SKUs for an app to make sense for a brand?
For a full app, yes, because how are you going to get someone to install an app if there isn't like real value, right? Unless it's like, I don't know, some sort of gamified experience, or we work with like a diffuser company that they have like the controls for their diffuser embedded in the app as well. So it's not just shopping. But for our clips product, we have a lot of brands with like small SKUs that are just using the clips in the ad flow to basically send a push notification to every single person that's ever clicked on one of their ads. And they're using it like purely as an acquisition play. The brands who do best are the ones who use it for acquisition, funnel you into retention, and kind of keep you forever. But yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zach. Anyone who goes and tests this out, let us know. We're so curious. I think this is such an interesting way to tackle. I know we had a ton of questions about very specific details on CRO, which is why our next speaker is an expert on this. So introducing Jackie from Heatmap, and Jackie, I'll hand it over to you to chat about all things peak BFCM.
Awesome. Thanks, Tila. Yeah, so really, I know this is like the main thing on a lot of e-commerce brands' minds on just how do we go into Black Friday, make sure that we're spending, money on capturing leads and making sure that they're converting and going through the website and not falling off. So definitely excited to chat through this. And so looking at last year's data, because I think that that's helpful to kind of inform what to do this year. We pulled an audit of essentially how various parts of the funnel performed in respect of not only how much traffic was captured on each of these types of pages, but also what the user behavior was to kind of indicate how to structure the pages, right? And where to kind of push certain behaviors and users, continuing down the funnel. So it was interesting to see, and wasn't that surprising, is that product pages basically had about 40% of the traffic. Shoppers are in buy mode. That is what we hope for. That's where a lot of ads are driving traffic to. If you're sending it to a product page, that's really where all of the action is taken. So nothing super surprising about that. Collection pages had about 25 to 31% of the traffic, and shoppers are in their exploring mode, looking at categories, deals, kind of however you're having your pages set up. And kind of with that, the more that you can really pad opportunities for them to do that. So thinking about your like filter systems, if you're having little, links to certain collections within that, really, what does that journey look like? That's where users are going to be doing all of that work. Homepage only had about 10 to 13% of traffic, which I think is a little bit surprising in the sense that users are bypassing it. I know that usually, especially if you're a brand manager or really thinking about what your homepage looks like, there's a lot of stress on making it look perfect. But ultimately, it's defining, what is that true purpose of it to make sure that you're really getting users to the pages that are converting the best and really, where the most of the action is being held. And then looking at cart and checkout, 13 to 16% of traffic ultimately, as of course users trickle down through that funnel, and they are reaching that buy stage. So that's great to see that users, kind of looking at last year's data, was able to make it to those final stages, but definitely emphasis of product pages is really where there needs to be a focus. So in the next slide here, so this is an example of really how to look at your specific funnel and be able to understand the different stages of this, of where your biggest drop-off points are, because definitely looking at even the past slide where you had 40% of users on product pages, but you're getting only around 13% or so of users to those final checkout stages. That's a drop off there, and you want to understand why that's happening and where that's specifically happening. So if you are familiar with our platform, we are an analytics and heat mapping tool. We've launched a ton of features this year, one of which includes funnels. So this is actually an example of a funnel report of a purchase journey. And as you can see, the different stages of a funnel shown with this and where there is drop off. So essentially how you look at this is really wanting to spot those micro conversions and major drop off points. I know a lot of times, especially if you are someone who has to do a lot of reporting, you'll usually get questions about that final conversion number and really, what is our conversion rate? And sometimes that's not always going to be giving the most amount of data when you really need to look at those micro conversions, because you may be getting your users from your ads to your site, but they may not be following all the way through. And this is going to give you those answers as to why. So whenever you're seeing a large drop off, which, for example, here highlighting that add to cart stage, you're seeing about 62% of users abandon. And that is indicative of users that saw the product page and then didn't add to cart. So you really want to narrow in on those drop off points. And then with that, that's when you can look at your product pages of, okay, why is that happening? Looking at heat maps, looking at screen recordings, really understanding where that drop off point is occurring on the page. And then, of course, you could always dig further into filtering for specific audience segments and, getting those behavioral differences. But ultimately, this is going to give you a starting point, especially looking ahead of Black Friday, to be able to understand where you can really maximize optimizations now to make sure that you're not having people leave out of the funnel later on. And then in the next slide, there's essentially a little case study that we did following that method. So for this specific client, it was a client I actually worked with specifically. We looked at their journey, and it was that product page to add to cart step that was having significant drop off. And as we were looking into the heat mapping data to then understand, okay, why is that drop off occurring? And you want to look at the buy box of where that action is being held. They had two CTAs here. One that was adding a product to cart and another that was buy now, skipping the cart, sending users straight to checkout. Now you may think, and I think this is usually the mindset that people have when they want to have these steps to skip, that if you have a step to skip there, it's going to perform better because you're getting them to the checkout faster. But there's an art and a science to this. I'm sure as you do CRO and A/B testing, it's a very humbling experience that just because you have it there doesn't mean that users are ready to take it, right? So being able to understand the data of this, it was very clear that the buy now CTA was underperforming substantially. So with that, it was suggested of, okay, we're seeing that users are not taking it. It's adding confusion because you have two action points that you want them to have on this specific step. And the funnel data shows everyone's leaving at this step. So in removing that buy now CTA, they saw uplift across multiple KPIs, which was fantastic. The revenue per session went up, revenue per click went up, conversion rate went up. Users were not taking this step, and all of the data showed that it wasn't worth having. So you want to be able to find, especially ahead of BFCM, where are those opportunities in your funnel that could be leading why users are falling off, especially if you're giving them kind of, additional things that they don't necessarily need to digest during their journey. So this is definitely something that you can do with our platform. So also a little treat that we wanted to provide in the next slide here. So if you scan this QR code, you're actually going to get our free 150-point CRO checklist. This is really to help you jumpstart being able to identify where you could find these opportunities to streamline your funnel and get users shopping more and actually reaching that checkout stage. So yeah, go ahead and scan it, and here to answer any questions.
Amazing. Let's answer a couple of those questions while folks are scanning. So, question in the chat from Connor: do you recommend having both CTAs for higher value products, or is best in all cases to have a single CTA of add to cart based on the heat map data?
So it really depends on your brand and your products. From a handful of years of CRO testing that I've done, double CTAs for cart usually don't perform well because you're giving users confusion between two different actions that you want to take. And especially on a product page, also depending how many SKUs you have, right? They may be in the shopping mode that they want to look at a handful of different product pages. You're just then assuming that maybe the one they're on is the final one that they're ready to check out. So it really is indicative of the data for you to look at your funnel and be able to understand, does this make sense for your specific journey, and then make decisions based off of that.
Elliot is exactly right. Analysis paralysis. We want to keep it simple with our funnel, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. One more question for you. How do users perform differently in BFCM compared to the rest of the year? So how do you help merchants plan for that seasonally?
Yeah, I definitely think, I know even us just thinking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you get this feeling of like overwhelm, and users and shoppers get that as well. So I feel like a lot of the time deals are just thrown at them. They're preparing for deals to be thrown at them. And that's really, that's a more transactional relationship, right? So that's where they're spending most of their time. For you to be able to pad that with value, making sure that you're speaking to value, making sure that you're able to better support it during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you essentially want to make it harder for them to really compare your product to your competitors, right? So where can you really lean in value when you are looking at optimizing your pages? The copy, the messaging, doing post-purchase surveys are a fantastic way to get that information now to be able to prepare it for later. So that is really a way to kind of help make it feel less transactional, because it's such a highly transactional time and you want to try to make it as relational as possible.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information, all these useful tips. So there's a couple more questions for you in the chat, but in the interest of time, I'm going to hand it over to Laura from Postscript. I know we are all thinking about SMS marketing this week with the new changes to iOS, so I feel like we're all going to be on the edges of our seat. I'll turn it over to you, Laura.
And I'm happy to answer any iOS 26 questions at the end as best I can. But for now, I really want to encourage everyone to think about conversations as part of their SMS marketing strategy. Now, this is certainly a new way to think about SMS marketing. The reality is most shoppers assume that a text from your brand is a no reply, but your job is really to prove them wrong. So a lot of brands try, a conversational campaign once or twice. They probably hear nothing back, and then they decide that their list just does not want to engage with their brand over text. But the truth is that a lot of people just haven't been given the right prompts yet. They don't actually know to engage with your brand. They don't know that they'll actually receive a response in some form or another if they were to engage. So this is the time to train that muscle. So clear prompts, multiple choice answers, even light questions that you might send out, it all gets subscribers used to texting back. So we have heard from so many brands that have tried this multiple times that people continue to text back and say things like, "Oh, I didn't actually think you'd respond," or "We didn't actually think we'd get a response over text." So by the time BFCM hits, if you're doing this now, you've got a list that's really primed to reply instead of ignore. So why does that matter? It matters because a reply isn't just engagement, it's segmentation. it's intent data. So it's the difference between, sending out a generic Black Friday offer to your full list or tailoring a message to a gift buyer versus a self buyer, which a lot of people have mentioned this before as a tip. So one small interaction in October pays off tenfold in November when the inbox is kind of crowded and timing matters more. Okay, so step 2, this is when you turn these conversations into segments. And this is where this gets really impactful for you. When we talk about segmentation for BFCM, most people are building lists manually. So they're pulling reports, slicing by AOV, maybe creating those buyer versus non-buyer segments. But conversational SMS can actually do a lot of this for you on autopilot, which is helpful. So when you send a simple question like, who are you shopping for this season? I know a lot of us have brought up this example already, which is, we all know clearly that this is impactful. So from here, you can use replies to tag subscribers into really simple but effective BFCM segments. So for example, pre-BFCM, maybe you send a classic, who are you shopping for question that gets gift buyer segments teed up for your Black Friday drops. During BFCM, you can go a step further. You can use quick questions like, what's stopping you from checking out? And let those replies dictate what subscribers get what kind of objection handling flow. And this can be things that you can set up as an automation too. This is not something where you need to sit there and be replying to everyone. And then post BFCM or even during BFCM, same approach that you follow up smarter, like asking, was your order a gift or was it for you? And splitting those responses into maybe a treat yourself versus a gift add-on flow. And this is a great way to just get buyers back in their carts, which is a segment that so many brands disregard during kind of the BFCM chaos. Okay, so step 3 is to automate without losing the human touch. You obviously, if you want to open up the door to conversations with customers, you don't want it to sound like they're all generic auto replies. I can't tell you how many brands I've subscribed to, and I've actually wanted to ask them a question, and a lot of the replies I'll get will say something like, oh, thank you for texting us back. Please email us at blah, 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 which is such a break in that opportunity there to take people out of that easy to interact, one-to-one channel that texting is so good for and sending them over to like email or a customer support number. So I think everyone's first thought here when they look at the step is like, oh my gosh, my CX team would not be able to keep up with replies on Black Friday. And that is so true if you were doing it manually. But the point of preparing now is to let those automations kind of carry the load when the flood hits. So branch your replies based on simple choices, auto tag those responses, and trigger follow-ups when someone clicks or views a product. It's not complicated and it can save hours. And for the people that just reply with an emoji or an I don't know, or I'm texting you from my Nissan Sentry, you can build in like those smart fallback messages so they still feel heard without kind of having to pull your whole team in. So your subscribers are getting these quick on-brand replies. Your CX team stays focused on the few conversations that really do need like a human in the loop to handle. So end result here would be capture data, keep that interaction moving, and maintain a human feel without overwhelming your CX team. So of course, game day, it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Do you want to send out a cute conversational campaign during this time frame? Like, what's your favorite holiday movie? Absolutely not. This is a 4 or 5 day sprint. Shoppers are not looking for those cute engagement questions anymore. They're hunting for the best deal quickly. And your SMS, of course, has to reflect that. So what does that mean for conversations? Well, this is where conversational SMS shifts from icebreakers to objection handling. So you'll ask, what's stopping you from buying today, let's say, and you'll immediately know from the reply if it's price, shipping, or just indecision. And that lets you respond in real time instead of guessing. So you can also assume people are comparing you to other brands, so lean into that. Send a quick comparison prompt, maybe something like, here's how our BFCM bundle stacks up. And sometimes that side by side is all someone really needs to pull the trigger. And of course, it is BFCM, so the speed here matters a lot, whether it's automated branching or using Shopper, which is our kind of AI solution to have one-to-one personalized conversations. To field these FAQs on stock and shipping, the goal is the same, which is clear those objections quickly, keep the cart moving, and convert while intent is still sky high, which it really will be during this time. So that's the tone shift. You're not just sending offers, you're helping customers make a decision to purchase in real time. So most brands will be shouting out offers loudly during BFCM. They'll be just single promotional texts, but the ones who listen and respond will be the ones that can really move the needle over that channel in revenue and in post BFCM engagement and retention. And I don't have a QR code like everyone else, so I'm going to have to add that for the follow-ups after this.
For the follow-ups, add in a QR code. Or if you just want to drop in your meeting booking link into the chat for folks who want to ask further questions. That was so useful to learn and think about. One of the questions that we got from a registrant when they signed up for the webinar was, how do I prevent unsubscribes or opt-outs leading up to BFCM? What's your best tactic for that?
Again, this is segmentation. So the more you do in building those segments, the better targeted those messages are. I think we really want everyone to see our Black Friday, Cyber Monday messages. So a lot of people are doing those full list sends. You can still hit your full list, but they should be very specific segmented messages. And this is kind of an approach we would suggest year round, which will help keep those unsubscribes down. Really do the work to do the segmentation, whether that's really at like the pop-up level, whether you have a pop-up that's collecting that zero-party data for your SMS list and it's asking, for example, you're a beauty brand, are you interested in eyes, lips, or cheeks? And when someone subscribes, the minute they're on your list, they're getting a really targeted experience. You're sending them those specific eye colors. You're sending them maybe a sale around eyeshadows, and just kind of collecting that information up front, keeping your segments very clear and concise. That will help make sure you're not getting those huge spikes in unsubscribes.
So helpful. The perfect use case for no commerce and Postscript to be used together again.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, one more question for you. What would be a great way to use zero-party data that's been collected from a conversational SMS campaign right after someone signed up for a brand's list?
Yeah, I mean, a really fun way to just add conversational that we're seeing a lot of brands start to do now is in that welcome series flow. So already as part of your welcome series automation, again, this can be something that's automated, but sending up kind of like a branch reply. So maybe in your second message, or even your first message, you're going to ask something like, so what is it on our site that caught your eye? Maybe from there you can ask them to reply A, B, C, D, and they're your top categories. And from there, again, you can start serving them like really intentional messages based on what they're actually shopping for. So you don't have to do that guesswork. You can start collecting that zero-party data. You can start building those basic segments and then build on from there and there and there. You can get to a point where hey, this person, they've bought sweaters from us 4 times. We know that they love a sweater. They're getting a sweater specific message around BFCM, even though the entire site is 30% off, but you're really paying attention and creating a very personalized experience for people over text.
I love it. If anyone has any more questions for Laura, ask them in the chat. And I do want to say we have 10 minutes left, but we have some amazing speakers left. So we're going to stay on a little bit longer to make sure that everyone has the chance to go and to chat and give our presentations. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael from AfterShip to chat us all about timing and conversion.
Timing. Look at the timing. We got a few minutes left and just enough to cover some great topics. I think wow, we've really like dissected a lot of the customer journey for you guys here. And I know whoever does end up implementing some of these strategies, you're really gonna crush it. I think from kind of what everyone was mentioning, there's like kind of a sub theme of like what's stopping you from buying, right? So I'm excited to kind of jump in here. So if you're not familiar with AfterShip, we're a all-in-one post-purchase platform. We help e-commerce brands improve their customer experience, increase revenue, reduce operational cost. We specialize on branded tracking pages, automated notifications, returns management, TikTok Shop Connector, and delivery date estimates, of course. We work with about 1,200 global carriers and have integrations with all your favorite app ecosystem partners. I think we're at around 17,000 brands that we work with today. Gymshark, Dr. Squatch, Uni, Away Travel, some really fun ones. But yeah, let's jump right into the problem here. So, you know, shoppers are impatient. It's a busy holiday season. I know I am like that. Um, and really, one of the kind of friction points that kind of comes into this layer is, you know, is that delivery date actually true, right? Like, am I going to get this on time? And that's something that can hold you back as a buyer and really lower conversion rates. So it's really, really important to focus on this. And we have at AfterShip a product called Estimated Delivery Date, or EDD. And those accurate estimated delivery dates are really, really key in increasing conversions. Think about maybe the last time you even shopped on like Amazon. Did you pick the one that delivers in 2 days, or did you deliver the one that's like a week and a half from now, right? This is really important because that builds trust. You order something, it's going to arrive on time, and you want to build, customer lifetime value, and drive repeat purchases. So that's kind of what the problem is and why it matters. And I'm also going to kind of touch on uh, what the solution is to it. Overall, like what you're solving for, people want trust and they want clarity, and not having this is a missed opportunity. So if you think about it, I think 75% of purchase decisions are influenced by their product description, and your estimated delivery date is absolutely part of that. So in comes AfterShip EDD. We've predicted over 280 million delivery dates with 95% accuracy. So that outperforms typical carrier provided estimated delivery dates. And we're also leveraging other data points such as carrier performance, shipping zones, and in this case, holiday processing time. And we can make much more reliable forecasts, which directly impacts that conversion rate. So here on this little example, you're going to want to add that estimated delivery date to that product detail page or checkout page, because that triggers buying intent. And what that really is going to do is reinforce confidence in that purchase decision. So we're seeing an average lift, 2.34% on the product conversion rate, 2.69% lift on the checkout. And overall, what does this do? It leads to less questions about where your order is going to be. You know exactly when it's going to be there, not as much of a need to ask. So going back to all these other layers of communications, you're also going to reduce the workload on your team. So this is not just a feature of shipping. Think about estimated delivery date as a conversion tool. And AfterShip, we can help talk about that with you. But I think it's just one of those nuances to the customer journey that is really, really important to consider, especially going in. I guess maybe ask yourself, how many of you guys are like last minute shoppers, right? You're trying to buy something at the end. Oh, shoot, I forgot it's the sale period. It's even more critical for those kind of folks. So um, again, making sure you're displaying this data on your product page, understanding how to leverage it, and of course, reaping the rewards of having a higher conversion rate due to this minor tweak that's easy to implement.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. I read a stat a while ago that the average shopper checks the delivery page more than 20 times after they make a purchase. Does that line up with those on the call? How many times are you logging in and checking on your delivery page? I'm curious. Laura does. All right,
Yeah.
question for you that you alluded to, Michael. You mentioned that this can reduce kind of the workload for your customer service team. Can you talk a little bit more about how estimated delivery date impacts the CX team?
Yeah, there's like a really tangible drop in Wismo tickets or Where's My Order tickets. It's about a 27% drop after switching from the typical carrier EDD to AfterShip EDD. And also to kind of touch on your point, uh, people are checking their tracking page many, many times after they purchase. That is also a really important aspect of your customer journey. Why send them to FedEx's page when you can send them to a beautifully branded tracking page that has product recommendations from you, is in line with your brand's colors, everything, and it's much more seamless. So in combination with that, I think that's also the hidden question behind it is you should also be branding your tracking page.
Yeah, have that aligned branded customer journey from purchase to post-purchase tracking. And then once we get to the reviews later on, it looks similar too.
Exactly. And with a more accurate delivery date, you can, leverage your SMS comms platform and send that review request after it's been delivered, not before. And you'll have a much better customer journey like that.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for coming and chatting with us a little bit about accurate delivery timing and forecasting that. If there's any more questions, ask them in the chat. We have Michael and we also have Michelle from AfterShip here to help us out. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Yelena from Foursixty to chat a little bit about turning selfies into sales. We do have another speaker after this, so if you all have another 10 minutes after our time, stay on and learn a little bit more. But Yell, over to you.
Thank you, Tila. So Foursixty has been around for over 10 years now. The core of our product is pulling content from brands' Instagram and even their customers or influencers' Instagram and displaying that on site in shoppable galleries. So a lot of brands out there, they really focus on what they're putting out on Instagram. They want to get followers. They want to get people to follow them. Everybody's on Instagram. Their customers are on Instagram. But a lot of the times that content is not supercharged to the max. If you're using stuff on Instagram, if you're curating your feed, but you're not also pulling that on site and in emails, you're missing out on opportunity and you're missing out on conversions as well. Foursixty can impact conversions and add to cart anytime, but this is obviously very, very important during BFCM when typically the sales are make or break for brands. You want to maximize those sales and drive more profit. An example of what Foursixty does is a lot of times on brand's homepage, this was touched upon a little bit by Heatmap, but a lot of the times it actually has a really high bounce rate on brands' homepages. So a homepage gallery is something extremely simple that you can introduce. You can either decide to have your Instagram feed, your brand's Instagram feed, dynamically updating on the homepage. When someone clicks on a photo, they can actually add the product in the photo to cart. So I've seen so many brands do the mistake of having an Instagram nod on their homepage. And if you click on a photo, it actually takes you away from the website to the brand's Instagram. We want them on the website. Everything we're doing is to push people on our website. Now, if we're going to show them additional content, we want to push them to the product pages. We want to push them to add to cart. So on the homepage is extremely important, and you can totally customize Foursixty. It's not even just Shopify exclusive. There's so many brands with custom cart or really, really custom looks to their site who can totally redo the look of Foursixty and make it match the aesthetic and look of their website. So it just looks like it's a part of the site. Now on product pages, when someone is on the product page, again, a lot of the panelists mentioned that there is a drop off between looking at the product and actually buying the product. So with Foursixty, seeing pictures of other people wearing, styling that product, using that product, it makes a huge difference. Sorry, can you go to one slide before? Okay, never mind. Go back. Go back. This is an example of, we have a lot of huge clients. You can see anyone who's big on social media is using Foursixty or wants to use Foursixty or can benefit from Foursixty. Kim Kardashian Skims, obviously she's constantly posting on Instagram. On her product pages, there's a gallery of photos seen on social, Skims on social. So you can see pictures that they have approved to appear on that page. It could be photos of Kim Kardashian herself. It could be photos of other people who have posted on their own Instagram that the Skims team have vetted and approved and have permission to use. And it could be photos that the actual Skims team posted on their own Instagram. So it's all of this additional content driving customers to the product pages. And then on the product page, they get to see how other people wore that specific product. Similar to how the product page galleries work, where they're product specific, you would also be able to use on certain plan levels and with certain email marketing tools, you'd be able to use this type of product specific gallery in an abandoned cart email. So if somebody didn't buy the product and they get an abandoned cart email, then you can also throw in the Foursixty gallery to show product-specific content for the product they just abandoned to try to really reel them in and buy the product. Humans are social beings. We like to see what other people are doing. We like to kind of get inspo and copy what other people are doing. So when I see a product and there's, some really great model photos with that product, but then I also see real life people, how they style it differently, it makes my head spin and think, oh, I could wear this here, I can do this there. And then it really does impact someone wanting to buy that product. And you can see how this is immediately apparent for apparel brands, makeup brands. We have a ton of furniture brands. Like if you see a couch styled totally differently with different designers and their layouts and how they've done it, it is really impactful on maybe someone wanting to make the purchase. If they have some sort of inspo in their head for a styling of their room, they want to make the purchase because they see that inspo on there. There's also just beverage companies even posting like videos or reels with ingredients, them making a cocktail or making their morning matcha. So all of that type of user generated content, people want that, brands want that on Instagram. But we also want that driving to the strategic areas on the website and in emails to maximize the conversion, minimize the bounce rate, and just overall increase the sales. We do also have a Black Friday promo going on. So we have a couple different plan levels. Some are for like starter brands, some are for more established brands with UGC. But we do have an annual $600 off on the middle or higher tier plan. If anyone in this webinar is interested, I'm going to drop my meeting link in the webinar chat. So I would be happy to give any brands interested a very specific demo with industry specific examples. Because again, if I'm talking to somebody who is, a car part company who is selling rims, I'm not going to be showing Kim Kardashian skims. So I would love to anyone interested, do a demo and show you some brand specific content. Again, we've been doing this for over 10 years now. We've grown with Instagram. The nature of Instagram has changed a lot too, with so many more influencers, and Foursixty gets to capture all of that UGC and drive it to your website to maximize your sales.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing this. I'm a skin shopper. I didn't realize that this was Foursixty. That's so exciting to hear. I'm curious, tell me more about the permission. So you mentioned that it's approved posts are automatically added to the Foursixty widgets on landing pages. Tell me more about how that works.
Absolutely. So with Foursixty, it's a user-friendly dashboard that someone at the brand would be managing. So they're tagging the products to make sure that there's no room for error. You're tagging the product in it. You are also the one to approve UGC. If there's influencers you're working with and you know that that's already approved, maybe there's like a pre-existing contract or email with them, you can click approve and then mark it as visible. If it was more of an organic post, you can actually go through Foursixty's rights management process to customize a message that you can copy, comment on the specific photo, or you can send a DM. And then when they respond, if it is a comment and they respond with a specific approval hashtag, that hashtag is captured as like a digital signature approving the post in Foursixty. So there's a couple different ways to do it. And again, sometimes brands have like pre-existing email or contract with influencers. Those you can just approve by clicking, but nothing will just automatically show up on the website. Someone internally will be approving and making stuff visible just to ensure there's no room for error or random content showing up on the site.
We love that, especially during BFCM season. One of my favorite reasons to think about something like Foursixty is most brands are already doing a UGC strategy, and this is just a way to tie your e-commerce strategy, your CRO strategy with your UGC, right? So it's taking the two different areas of the business and combining them to maximize.
Absolutely. And I just saw a really quick question about, can videos be utilized? Videos or Instagram photos can be used. You can also connect to TikTok, so videos on TikTok, and even Pinterest. But primarily the core is Instagram and Instagram UGC, which again includes videos and photos. But you could branch out to other social media platforms as well and connect those too if there's unique content being posted on those.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for the presentation. Super curious to hear anyone who implements Foursixty. How did it change your CRO? Want to follow up on that. And we're going to hand it over to our very last presenter. So Maya, last but not least, turning it over to you to chat about all things inbox to checkout. You're thinking full funnel.
Yeah, hi. As a reminder, I'm from Roswell, full service e-commerce agency. And so this should feel like common sense, but as someone that has gone through many Black Friday, Cyber Mondays, I have seen things slip through the cracks for many a brand. And so this is a reminder of what that looks like. If you want to get to the next slide. Oh, back one. So the problem often is that too many brands treat it as a channel by channel scramble. So your teams are not talking to each other. Your paid marketing team is setting off a few different campaigns, testing, they're doing their own thing. The creative doesn't necessarily match, whereas your customer service team is told to speak to your customers in a certain way. They don't know what's out in the world. They don't know what you're telling people. Your retention team hasn't aligned their flows to their pop-ups to the messaging on site. And so, especially in such an ultra competitive world, all it takes is a second of distraction for you to lose someone. So, disclaimer, this client at Hat Heaven did not make this mistake, but this is what a mistake could look like, is if the pop-up said their evergreen 10% off, but then the first email reflected their Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal. It's confusing, it's not consistent, and it happens more often than not. So like very often people forget to update their flows and their pop-ups if they have a site-wide sale. So reminder to do that. Next. And then the solution, start with last year's results. Don't reinvent the wheel. You knocked it out of the park. Maybe you didn't. Maybe there was like errors and things that you could improve. What were they? Bring those learnings into this year. Audit what worked, timing, subject lines, VIP offers, and what flopped. Things will flop. It's natural. Update your core flows, welcome, abandonment, win back, and make sure they align with your Black Friday promos. Hammer consistency across pop-ups, banners, sign-up units, so you're not just giving away redundant discounts. Maximize deliverability with warm-up segmentation, smart resends, ensuring your hard work actually reaches inboxes. What a smart resend will look like is changing the subject line, resending, and making sure to adjust so that people who opened the email are excluded, send it again. That way, like you're just climbing the inbox because you're going to get buried that day. And do it multiple times throughout the day. And then also above all else, prep early. I like to get most brands ready by like September, which is right about now, October. Don't wait until November, please. Your team will thank you. And build in some VIP perks. Also, this is also the time to plan for January. So you're doing all this work, you're getting all these people in, you're spending all this money to get people on your site, all this traffic. How are you going to capture that? How are you going to reach out to them in Q1? Set up a win back specific to those people. There's tactics, there's strategy, there's things that you can think of now that will make your future self so much happier. And there's a few examples. And then, yeah, we are offering a complimentary retention marketing and UI UX audits. Each is valued at $2,500, but we are currently offering them for free. So please scan the QR code and enter the form to see if you qualify. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me, even though we went over.
Amazing. I have some questions for you about what you shared. So one of the questions that came in advance was, what trend do you think will take over BFCM 2025 that brands could predict for?
Depends on the industry, but I would say people shopping like earlier, because I think if you really lean into like inventory selling out with the way that like, inventory generally has been a nightmare this year. So if you lean into that messaging, people will purchase sooner, especially since it's so late in the year. I would really focus in on that and push that narrative. And then I would also really push like credits using like a Rise AI, things like that. And then loyalty. It's a big one.
That's so important. The planning early because the sale actually starts a lot earlier. It's not actually going to be BFCM weekend for most brands. They do something in November or even end of October. Tell me one of your favorite examples of a win back campaign that you've done over the years.
So I just worked on one with Curious Elixirs. They are a non-alcoholic brand. And we did one because like dry January is such a big moment in Q1. And so we did one around March and it worked really well. It was very much like re-engaging everybody. They had this whole campaign about like getting the big, great, curious cocktail party that happened around the same time. And so they really timed it well. So everybody was coming in at a like exciting moment for the brand. So it really showed the brand narrative of who they were. And so I appreciated that. And then also love doing an April Fool's win back. I gotta be honest, you can get really creative and funky and show your personality.
I love that. An April Fool's one for all of those people that you don't win back with the January. Go for them the next quarter.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much, Maya. We're going to wrap up here. We will send the recommendations, our TLDR, in the follow-up email just to be cognizant of time. And we asked a ton of questions during the chat. There were a few that came in through the Q&A that I will get each of our speakers to respond to, and we will send those in the follow-up email. So thank you all so much for joining us for this BFCM mega action, mega tips. I hope you got a few really easy to implement techniques and things that you can do to optimize the fractures in your funnel leading up to this BFCM season. If you have any questions, follow up with us after the webinar. And if not, we will share the recording and all of the tips after. You will hear from us today or tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.